Now, of course, you can see the defense mechanisms, the slouching in the chair that shows I'm very nonchalant and I don't really care for what's happening here. I'm more so being entertained by this. And then the laughing as a defense mechanism and feeling extremely uncomfortable for having his traumas and dysfunction put on blast on camera, knowing this is going to hit TikTok and YouTube. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. So we have an interesting topic tonight. Nick Cannon did an interview with Dr. Umar. And if any of you know Nick Cannon's background, he has, I think it's like 12 or 13 children with quite a few different women. And so essentially Dr. Umar is psychologizing him on this public platform. And so these clips have been like all over the internet, all over TikTok. And I came across this one yesterday and was like, I would love to do a reaction video to that. So let's see what's unfolding here.
Understand that within the context of you being a hopeless romantic and manipulating women to love you.
Because I have the ability and I've been put in a position having that king complex.
So when I first saw this video, I was like, I'm not really sure what king complex is. I've never heard that before, but I can kind of put two and two together based on his lifestyle. So I had to look it up, and it says king complex is actually similar to a god complex. It's formed when someone develops an inflated sense of self-importance, believing they are superior to others, often stemming from factors like excessive praise in childhood, a lack of accountability, experiences of power or authority, unresolved childhood issues, or a combination of these, leading them to feel infallible and entitled to special treatment, similar to how a deity might be perceived. So that's pretty much what I was thinking. And Nick Cannon is in a rare circumstance than I think most of humanity is, to be able to financially take responsibility for these seeds that he's planting in all of these different households, right?
That I can love and provide and be a part of multiple situations.
But do you recognize that you're being spiritually and emotionally underfulfilled by not allowing yourself to be properly loved? I don't think you see it because you're in the hustle and bustle of career in life. I don't think you sit still long enough to really see how you're missing out, because we as men, right? I'm going to divine design. We're engineered to need a woman to fill us up. They replenish us.
Replenish. I love it.
So no matter how you cut the cake, you have a large emptiness within you as it relates to love and intimacy.
Okay.
And I think you do a good job of distracting yourself from that fact. My question is, how long are you going to do this before you face your demons and man the fuck up?
I would say
it's interesting because the way that we move as a society when it comes to our desire for romantic relationships, it tends to be out of or coming from a void filling nature. So we tend to seek partners and create families from an unhealed place that we're so unaware of. And this unhealed place tends to be a void that was created in our childhood that came from an experience we did or didn't have with our parents or our guardians. And so we seek to fulfill this void in our adult romantic relationships. And that's what he's talking about. I also want to point out, number one, his posture, and number two, his laugh. So the way that we work as human beings, 99% of communication is non-verbal, and it's through body language. So what I'm interpreting in this video as what Nick Cannon potentially could be experiencing inside, and even at an unconscious level, is that he's extremely uncomfortable. And you can tell based on the way that he's slouching, and that also might have something to do with his king complex, but also by his laugh. So when we're embarrassed or we're experiencing some sort of shame or guilt, sometimes even fear, we laugh as a defense mechanism to make it seem as though we're comfortable when we're actually not, because we're being exposed. So if you'll watch throughout the video, he tends to laugh at things when there really isn't anything to laugh about.
I would say first of all, the women that do love me at the highest level. In their ability, they attempt and desire to give me their all.
Okay.
And I'm grateful and appreciative to that. And I understand and recognize that. And I also understand that that's not the typical infrastructure or microcosm of a relationship.
Okay.
Therefore, I enjoy the life that I have. I enjoy the way love comes to the direction to me at this point in my life.
So we give away who we are and how we experience life in so many subtle ways. And you can really tell so much about a person just by listening to them. So just these few statements alone that he's made, the observation that I'm perceiving is that all of the love is always coming to him through these women. And that what he may be experiencing is not actually love the way that he's perceiving it, because he very well may be perceiving it as just feeding his king complex. And another thing that I wanted to point out is he talks about him enjoying this life that he's living. The way that we translate love and our experience is seen through the lens of our trauma. And even sometimes, as painful as our trauma is, we're familiar with it. And so it's comfortable for us. And so it makes you wonder if the joy that he's experiencing, that he says that he loves about his life, that he loves the dynamic of it, that it brings him joy. Is it really joy that you're experiencing? Or is it just feeding your trauma and perpetuating your unhealed behavior?
I love every experience that I've had.
Okay.
I love every new experience that is in front of me. And so in that manning up concept, I believe I'm manning up on every level, because I'm not desiring I've had the interaction with just one individual and we're pouring, I've had it.
It's interesting that he used the terminology interaction. And I'm backing up to what I was saying earlier about how we give away so much of who we are in the things that we say, consciously and subconsciously. So him describing his interaction with, I'm assuming, Mariah, his marriage, right? So the fact that he's describing this experience as an interaction gives you a clue into how he actually experienced it. Because if you have this deep, intimate experience with someone, you would describe it as such. We describe things based on the feeling of how we perceive it. And if he only describes it as an interaction, it makes you wonder if that's really all that he took from it and that it didn't really go that deep in him.
I no longer desire that. What I enjoy and desire currently is the space in which the people who are willing to make the sacrifice and love me the way that they love me now.
Our trauma is comfortable, and being in a monogamous relationship with someone, in order for it to prosper, there has to be deep intimacy. And if that doesn't sit well with your trauma, then being with multiple women spread thin so that you don't have to go deep intimately with any of them means that you're not being pushed out of your comfort zone and you're not being made to look at your trauma. And that tends to be more enjoyable and less triggering, which is why we tend to put ourselves in romantic relationships that keep us locked in the framework and the program of our trauma.
So are you getting a little bit of love from each woman that ultimately equals, in your mind, a full plate of the intimacy that you need? Are they all contributing a piece?
I want to say yes. I think it's a little more complex than that.
Okay.
I think, again, going back to the king complex, I know it's a complex of there's something within me that believes I have enough to sustain loving relationships with more than one person.
And you're comfortable with just enough from each of the women, because as long as they only give you a piece, you never have to give any of them your whole heart. So you're still
Sound like I
running
mastered
and
the game.
playing hot.
You notice the laughter? And the laughter gets more intense the more uncomfortable we are. Pay attention.
Do you see how fame and success have enabled you to not confront those lifelong issues you had so that you can ultimately be what a woman would need?
Absolutely. And I like it.
No, you like what? Give me that.
I like, because you got to think, if we take it all the way back to
Yes,
childhood,
sir.
the thing
Yes,
that
sir.
I've been desiring all my life is that fame, that fortune, that success in that space to allow me to maneuver throughout this world the way that I want to.
But you're still maneuvering throughout this world as you want to, as a scared child.
I'm fine.
And the question is the way who wants to. We create these egos throughout life, and our ego is a combination of lots of different things, but what's included in that ego, this protection mechanism, is our trauma. And so we just really have to be careful with the choices that we make and pay close attention to the things that we like and why we like them. Because most of the time, the choices that we make are based on our subconscious programming. And if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my video, Take Off Your Ego, where I go into a little deeper of an explanation into exactly what the ego is and how it serves us and works against us. But this is a prime example of when our ego takes control.
Fine with that.
Your inner child. Listen, when we're born, we
Yes.
all have an inner child. Everybody, I got one.
Indeed.
That inner child has a memory of every trauma, drama, disappointment, butt whipping, spanking, bully episode. It remembers it all.
Yes.
Part of becoming an adult, because remember, we all have a physical age,
Yeah.
and we all have an emotional age.
Absolutely.
You follow me?
Yeah.
And if you're dysfunctional,
Yeah.
your emotional age is much lower
Yeah.
than your physical.
100%.
Nick Cannon is living through his inner child.
I might be living
more
through my
than
inner
your spiritual
adolescent.
man. Okay, or your inner adolescent.
Yeah.
But more than your spiritual man.
100%.
Exactly.
100%.
That ain't the way it's supposed to be. And you're going to lose in the end if you don't.
What am I going to lose?
Because ultimately, you were sent into this world by supreme consciousness to fulfill a mission.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be difficult to fulfill whatever that mission is that the Almighty gave you if you don't confront your demons along the path. In other words, there will be karmic debts, Nick, that you will have to pay because you never faced your psychological demons from past and present in order for you to be the man of the future that a woman would be.
Our lives extend so far beyond our physical bodies and our physical reality. I know you've heard this before. I know you've heard me say this before. We are spiritual beings living a human experience. So when we become so enraptured in this physical world and we have all of these attachments and we think that none of our actions have consequences that extend beyond this physical reality, even at an emotional level, at a metaphysical level, at a spiritual level. And so this stuff goes much deeper than I think we actually really realize. And I think that that's what Dr. Umar just pointed out. But I do have to give Nick props, because to sit on a public platform and have your ego scrutinized is something that I think most people would not be able to handle as gracefully as he is. Now, of course, you can see the defense mechanisms, the slouching in the chair that shows I'm very nonchalant and I don't really care for what's happening here. I'm more so being entertained by this. And then the laughing as a defense mechanism and feeling extremely uncomfortable for having his traumas and dysfunction put on blast on camera, knowing this is going to hit TikTok and YouTube. It takes a lot of courage and bravery to receive therapy and counseling in front of millions, if not billions of people. So I think that we need to offer him a bit more grace for what he's actually doing. And the fact that he's taking the effort to see through the smokescreen of his subconscious programming.
Willing to face and acknowledge all of those things. And who's to say just because I'm not interested in a traditional relationship
It could
with
be
a woman.
non-traditional. I don't care if it's traditional or non-traditional. You're not ready to give her a chance to love you because you're not going to love her. See, you're not going to reciprocate.
But I've done that already.
You build relationships
that
don't require you to reciprocate.
And I'm fine with that.
That is unhealthy, though, Nick. It's unhealthy.
In what
I think
sense?
part of it, in
Explain.
every sense, because you're not filling them up. The reason you have all these different homes, good brother, is because you're running from that spiritual maturity that you need to develop to be 100% present in the life of one of these women.
I feel like this is some good stuff. We're on the right track. It's so important for us to pay the closest attention to our inner world and our mind, because our outer world is just a projection of that. So Nick having 11 or 12 different children by many different wives is a projection of his mind. It's a projection because he's projecting out into the world what he believes on a subconscious level. The belief that I'm not worthy of love. And so I don't give love because I don't feel worthy to receive it. And giving it means giving it on the deepest, most intimate level. Intimacy meaning into me I see. Showing someone the deepest, darkest, most embarrassing, shameful, guilty, loving, deep parts of yourself. And when you're not giving that to other people, it's like you're assaulting yourself because you're not allowing yourself the opportunity for you to receive that. So this work that he's doing with Dr. Umar is super deep. I give him props. I know that it's uncomfortable for him. It would be uncomfortable for most people. He's been extremely vulnerable. I think the public has wanted to hear from him for a while now on this topic because we all see in the media, every 9 months, every 6 months, he's popping out a new one. So I am super proud of him for taking steps in the right direction. And I think that we could all take some notes from his book on this. So that's pretty much all I have for y'all today. If you haven't already, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.